Well, I haven't got a time machine, but what I do have is a reasonable memory. The only thing is, by the time you get to my age, you have a difficulty in formulating some words and forgetting complete phrases and people's names. But here we go. I suppose when I first got interested in photography was through my Sunday school teacher. I must have been about 14 at the time, just leaving school, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I think I had in the back of my mind that I would probably end up in a factory. I didn't want to do that. A dead end job. And by chance, my Sunday school teacher organised a little trip for the choir and the youth club at the time to go down to her father's premises, which was Webb's Photographers in Market Harborough. I was absolutely amazed what went on there. He had a small shop at the front and a studio at the back, and then further back than that was a developing and printing section where they did most of the D&P for the town and district. I was absolutely blown away. I didn't realise that such jobs existed. Being rather a cheeky chappy, in other words, I was forthright and spoke up for myself occasionally. I went down and inquired, had they got any jobs for me or something I could do during the summer months while I was waiting to get to the legal age of 15 before I could start work. They said, but the manager, Mr. Webb, said, yeah, he could find me something to do. So I did a little bit of helping out in the developing and printing. And I also saw what went on in the studio. I was so enthusiastic that he offered me a job when I got to the age of 15. He said he could give me some sort of employment there and I would learn the trade. At £3 10 shillings a week. How do you equate £3 10 shillings a week? If you went straight to a factory, you'd be working on what they call good money, just left school, £5 a week. And let's see, a grown-up's wages would have been something between perhaps £10 to £15 if you were earning really good money, but that shows you the value of money at the time. But my parents were having none of it. Photography was not a way of earning a living as far as they were concerned. I needed an apprenticeship. I thought, oh great, yeah, I'm going to be a carpenter. I'll be a carpenter's apprentice. But no, on marching me down to the Labour Exchange, it was pointed out to me they hadn't got any vacancies at the moment for carpenters, but they had one for a painter and decorator. As I was interested in art, that would be right up my street. Yeah. So I'm going in people's houses and painting murals everywhere and beautiful pictures. Yeah, I bet. I was painting skirtings, walls, ceilings, you name it. Every dirty job going, that is what I did. It did have its lighter moments though, like the time we almost set fire to a pub. It was the Shoulder of Mutton in Great Bowden. We were burning off the paint, and one of my jobs was to a little door that was on the back of a hayloft, roughly. A hayloft is a sort of second story on a building, and they would have put hay in through there. It was about 3 foot square, and I hadn't washed it down after I'd finished, so there was some embers just waiting to burst into flames, which the bin got up in the night duly, and it did burst into flames. The fire brigade were called, but we got there the next day. There wasn't a lot of damage. I got a little bit of a telling off, although it wasn't my fault, but no, small. Right, another thing that happened was another pub. We, the old apprentice and myself, were given the dubious task of painting down, I'd say dubious, you'll see what happened, painting the cellar where all the barrels were kept. So being lads, we tapped some of the barrels and drank some of the beer. I ended up pushing my bike home. I daren't ride it. Things were a bit, the next day, yes, I did have a headache, but there you go. Another one springs to mind, I think, was it was the Swan at Braybrook. They had metal galvanised sheeting put over what would have been at one time or other a thatch roof. Actually, since then they have reverted back to a thatch roof. But this was just painted with a bitumen, a tar-like substance, and we had to clean it down and paint it. And the apprentice and myself, we were roped together. This was something like out of Laurel and Hardy. It was amazing. We were tied together, and when he went down on the left-hand side of the house, I at the front went up, and when I went down, he went up, and that is how we moved across the roof to clean the roof and then paint it again in sections with bitumen. Health and safety? Yeah, forget it. Not then. Oh, anyway, let's go back to photography. You today have what they call charity shops here, there and everywhere. We didn't have charity shops, but what we did have was what things called the village rummage sale. People would sell any sort of bric-a-brac, old clothing, furniture, you name it, it went on at a rummage sale. One particular time I was in a village hall next to where I live, and a lady had spotted something and pointed it out to me and thought I might be interested because of a hobby. She'd come across a big box of somebody's old photographic equipment. There was a Patterson developing tank, some dishes. These in those days were enamel dishes. There was a thermometer. I can't remember if there was a red light. I don't think there was a red light, but it was a start. There was some photographic paper, and the hilarious thing is she took it out of the box to show me that nobody had used it. It hadn't been printed. It was pretty fresh. Yeah, you guessed it. She'd fogged a whole lot. Never mind, I wouldn't know. She didn't know. Anyway, what I needed was a camera. Now, cameras were few and far between. Most people, if you went on holiday, you would have a professional photograph taken by a streetwalker. We used to go to Mablethorpe and Skegness quite a lot. This particular picture, I think, was taken at Skegness. They would snap you walking up the seafront or along the promenade. Next day you would go to the kiosk and they would have all the photographs displayed on the window. If you wanted it there and then, you bought it, and you could order some more if you wanted to for the rest of the family, which, you know, in those days was pretty good. At least you came away with a photograph of that time you went on holiday. What I can't believe is that we went on holiday to the seaside, and I'm wearing a tie and carrying a Mac. I look more like Prince Charles. But there you go. There you go. Another story. When you think of what people wear today to go to the seaside. Anyway, back to photography. My first lucky break was at another rummage sale. I came across a camera, a Kodak Junior. Brilliant little camera. There was a lot of guesswork involved. There was no split field rangefinder or anything like that, but I did have a viewfinder on it, and there was various speeds, and it got me going. Let's have a look inside. If I remember rightly, the negative area is 2 1/4 by 3 1/4. You work it out if you want to work it. That's imperial measurements. At Christmas time there was always a big push for the latest camera. Shops were full of them, and I remember, I think the first one that I ever got as a present was something like this Kodak Instamatic cartridge loader, 35mm. You could get plenty of pictures on it. Being 35mm, I would then have to look out for an enlarger of some sort. How was I going to get photographs after that? For those keen-eyed people out there, continuity, don't look it. I keep changing my glasses. These are my close focus glasses, and I have another pair for distance, so don't pick me up on continuity. It will happen. My next camera was a second-hand camera, and it was an Agfa, but at least I had means of focusing. It has a range finder, as you can see, and you used to set the ASA. It didn't have a meter reading, but at least I could focus it, and by that time I was guessing pretty accurately. Let's have a more in-depth look at this Kodak camera. Basically, I can't make it out. Just here it says number
zero codon. Anyway, that aside, let's have a look. So we've got the shutter speeds, and it goes from timing to brief, or bulb if you want to, but I can't see how you're going to synchronize that with this. And then you've got a 25th, 50th and 100th of a second. I've got a focus of sorts from here, so I can come to about 3 feet going to infinity. So you would have to judge that yourself. But as a camera overall, it's a brilliant little camera. And as I said before, the actual fact that I could do negatives that big, and I could then do contact prints, gave me some reasonable pictures. So I was quite happy with that for a while. I can't even remember how much I paid for it. If I paid more than 2-3 shillings, that's probably all I could afford, and that's probably what I paid for it. Goodness knows what they would cost now. But yeah, beautiful little camera. Still works to this day. The other one that I mentioned was basically the Instamatic 33. It went through several different Instamatics. And it was cartridge loaded, so you didn't have to worry about putting it into a dark room or standing with the sun behind your back. Remember those days? What you've got on here, you've actually got the bulb, and then you've got a bright sunny day. So you've got just the 2 settings. This was one of the early ones, because later on they actually went to a cube that went on there and rotates every time you take a flash. But it was still a reasonable camera, but unfortunately, as we said, it's just that size. We're down to 35mm. That's quite small, so I did need an enlarger. We'll talk about that next time. Let's have a quick look at the other one. Yeah, the Agfa RZT3, as I said, it's actually got a rangefinder built into it. Beautiful little camera. I've taken it apart and cleaned it. I won't use the shutter because, as you can see, I've got film in it, and I still use it to this day. It's a great little camera. Shutter speeds, I'm actually going from 1/8 of a second, 1 second, right up to 300th of a second, and they are pretty accurate. I still get good speeds on that. When you consider the age of the camera, that's amazing. Focusing, it is that front circle again, but my rangefinder unfortunately is broken on this one. The little lever on the back here that adjusts it is broken, but I can guess the footage now, so there's no problem with that. Beautiful little camera, still works, and I still do contact prints with it. So yeah, I did well when I bought that camera. I was very pleased with it.